We'll start with the bigger name here, Justin Simmons, safety, free agent, former Denver Bronco. We've talked about him so many times on this show throughout the last couple of weeks. He still goes unsigned. I talked to a Broncos person yesterday, asked why is there no traction here? Why is it? I don't even see headlines about where Justin Simmons might land. And they were just as dumbfounded as me and just said, hey, it's kind of hard to tell what his market is right now because the guy should sign for plus $10 million, but maybe people aren't interested in signing him for plus $10 million. But at the same time, maybe people are just trying to wait to see if that price tag is going to drop. And if it doesn't, then they're still going to give him the money that he probably deserves. It's a very sticky and somewhat unknown situation when it comes to him. Arthur Moats, former linebacker of the Steelers, dropped on his podcast, the Arthur Moats Experience, that he thinks that Justin Simmons can be a guy that fixes the Pittsburgh Steelers. I've mentioned this before, as early as or as late as last week, saying if the Steelers need a slot corner, maybe they just go sign Justin Simmons and make one of their safeties a slot corner. I don't know. You still think Justin Simmons is on the board for the Pittsburgh Steelers? And do you think it would solve most likely their last remaining need on defense?
Yeah, I'm not so sure. And especially just kind of at that price point, like he's going to be upwards of $10 million for a team that's already kind of struggling in terms of cap space. Like it's not unlimited there. Like this would basically eat up all of their remaining cap space. And they still need a little bit to hold on to going into the NFL draft. I don't know. The addition of Deshaun Elliott just makes me think they've kind of moved on, Justin Simmons is a great player. And he would have been incredibly valuable for the Steelers, but I don't know. You got your other starting safety. Like I don't think that Justin Simmons can kind of meaningfully address what holes they do have. Like if you're, I don't know, you need like a slot corner too. You need probably another outside corner if you want to be real safe about it. Like you need D tackle. Like I don't know. Just I feel like that money is better spent elsewhere. Justin Simmons is kind of a luxury item, and it's not one that the Steelers really need right now, quite honestly. Like I feel pretty comfortable with where they're at least as far as safety goes, to be quite honest. And I just don't see Simmons as realistic. I'm not sure I see the argument on this one.
So let me toss out a situation here, a scenario here. Let me see your opinion. I do agree that I think the Steelers, if they just move forward as is right now, I'm comfortable with their safety room. I like how it looks. I feel good about Deshaun Elliott. I think he's young and versatile, and I think he can make some impact. He's a sure tackler. He'd probably work really well with what DeMonte KZ and Minkah Fitzpatrick bring to the team. I'm all about it. Let me toss this out. If the Steelers were able to add a corner, but maybe the middle of the draft, okay? They brought in Max Melton, Rutgers corner, today. I'm a huge fan of Max Melton. I was a huge fan of his brother, and now I'm a bigger fan of him.
Who's his brother?
Melton, former wide receiver. Okay. Don't know where he ended up. He was a late-round pick, but this dude was a stud coming out. I mean, he was real low-key, sleeper at Rutgers, but made a lot of noise. Little dude. He's like 5'10", 5'11". I want to say maybe Denver. I don't know where he ended up, but I watched him at the Senior Bowl, and I fell in love with this dude. His brother's even better. Max Melton, inside, outside, capable corner, okay? If the Steelers were to sign Justin Simmons, and the cap space, let's remove the cap space. I don't know what the number would be. We both know that the salary cap is a myth. You could come up with ways to come up with more money. That's always on the table. But let's just say that the Steelers were able to sign Justin Simmons, okay? They move, I don't know, let's say either Deshaun Elliott or DeMonte KZ to the slot corner. You then draft Max Melton, who could play inside and outside. Your secondary now consists of Joey Porter Jr., Dante Jackson, Max Melton, DeMonte KZ, Deshaun Elliott, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and Justin Simmons, all capable of playing a lot of different positions. Is that a move that you would feel comfortable with if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and or a Pittsburgh Steelers fan?
I'm not really that sure. I mean, just because I'm not sure of how good of a slot corner Deshaun Elliott could be.
Yeah.
Like I guess you could go with Melton there, if you really feel like you need to, but then doesn't, of Simmons or Elliott becomes kind of redundant there, right? And then it's just kind of a sunk cost.
I viewed it as Max Melton would be your all-around inside-outside guy, while one of your safeties, KZ or Elliott, and granted, neither of them have a ton of experience, but they have some experience playing slot. And I get it that's like, you're almost taking a step backwards. I understand that. You move one of them to the nickel, and then your other one plays as the third safety while Fitzpatrick and Simmons are your starters. Here's what I want to talk about next. Size matters. We all know it, and it's important to remember it in times of need. I recently went to a small law firm in hopes of getting the compensation I felt I deserved. I didn't, and to this day, I still think about the money that I may have missed out on. I filled out mounds of paperwork, then waited around for what felt like forever, got phone call after phone call telling me what I did not do right in the process, and it was expensive. All to get underwhelming compensation and almost zero satisfaction. Fortunately, if you ever get seriously injured and want to file a claim, you don't have to go through the same hassle I did. Instead, you can make it way easier by finding out if you have a claim in just a few clicks on your phone and working with America's biggest injury law firm with a promise of being for the people. Here comes Morgan & Morgan, today's sponsor. Morgan & Morgan has over 1,000 attorneys working in all 50 states fighting to get their clients the money they deserve. In recent months, they've achieved verdicts for their clients, including one that is worth $26 million. That is 40 times the highest insurance offer. And they're absolutely free unless you win. I got lowballed. Don't make the same mistake I did. Fighting big companies takes a big firm, and with America's biggest injury law firm, you're ready to take on insurance companies of any size. Don't overthink it. You can start your claim in just a few clicks by following the link in our description or by going to www.forthepeople.com/allsteelers. It only takes a few minutes to find out if you have a case, and if you have, it might be worth millions.
I see it. That could work. You'd have to really get Elliott or KZ up to speed as far as a slot corner, and you have to do it quickly. It feels like Elliott might be the better fit there. Just maybe he's a little younger and could possibly adjust a little bit better. I feel like the ideal situation there is to hope that Max Melton can become your slot corner, like full time. Yeah. So. Yeah, I guess I see it. It could work. I mean, adding talent, obviously, not a bad thing, especially if it's a guy like Justin Simmons. Like, that is a player every team would love to have. So I guess I could see how it would work. Just, man, that's like we're cutting out the salary cap implications here, but that's like a big deal. It's like like I know the cap is only real to a certain extent, but you look at the Steelers roster, and it's not concerning, but they are running out of ways, I think, to create some more money. There aren't a ton of options for them right now after they've made all these additions. So that's the only thing I'd be worried about. If they can somehow figure out the cap thing to make it a non-issue, then I'm all for it. And I do wonder how long Justin Simmons is going to stick on this market for, and like what's that going to do to his market value, because there's no way. I mean, the longer you sit around, it's very rare that your value goes up. Especially as a safety.
So when do you think it, like, do you think if it goes past the NFL draft, we're looking at less than $10 million a season? Because there's a part of me that thinks that if he can make it to April 28th or whenever the last day, April 28th, I mean, I think that it goes from 10 million to maybe 5 million, maybe 7 million, depending on how good of a negotiator you are as a GM. And I think at that point, I mean, you're, no matter what team you are, you could be any team in the NFL. You're nuts not to be like, oh yeah, no, let's just ignore Justin Simmons at $7 million.
Right. Yeah. And I think you could get down there. After, I know the safety class isn't great in the NFL draft, but that kind of means that any team that actually needs a safety is just going to pick one up in the draft. They're going to pick up the top targets available, and then you're left with the pretty underwhelming group of free agents, and obviously the both rookies and veterans as well. And I feel like that's going to artificially drive down Simmons' price. He's going to want to get on a roster as soon as possible to get integrated with the playbook and everything. So I could absolutely see that happening. Going down to $5 million would be a dream, and that would be an opportunity the Steelers should absolutely jump on. But yeah, if you can get him for $5 or $7 million, like I'm all about that. That works for me. I can do that.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. If it somehow gets to that point, and I think it's got the potential to get to that point. I mean, at some point, everybody drops. Everybody has a little bit of a dip. But if it could get to that point, man, dude, the Steelers would be nuts not to at least make a phone call and just be like, hey, why not?
How low are you willing to go?
Like, why can't we just figure this out? I mean, there's no team in the NFL, especially the Pittsburgh Steelers, who would sit around and be like, you know what? I don't think we need more talent. I think we have enough talent. We could just sit here and be okay. There's just no shot that, like, Omar comes to Mike Tomlin, and we've seen it happen. Like, I was at the league meetings, and I was joking with Omar because at one point he I was hanging out with a couple Steelers writers, and we looked to the side, and Omar comes over, he's on the phone, he grabs Mike Tomlin, and we were all just like, there's no chance something's happening right now. But I could just see Omar walking into Mike's office and being like, hey, Mike, so got a deal on the table here. Justin Simmons set. I don't think he's going to get a number out of his mouth before Mike's like, yep, sounds good. Yep. Nope. Okay. Yep. And I think you're crazy not to add Justin Simmons if the numbers work out. And I think the longer we go, the more interesting those numbers get to every team in the NFL, especially the Pittsburgh Steelers.